Hi students, this is the continuation of last lecture. In the last lecture, we discussed the concepts of rules of inference, so here we are discussing the three rules. First rule is rule P. Rule P is used if the given premise, if we use directly the given premise in the derivation part, we are saying that which is rule P. Second one, rule T. By using the given set of premises, suppose if we derive a new premise and again we reuse the new premise in the derivation part, we are saying that that is rule T. Third rule is rule CP, we call it as conditional proof. That means whenever if the conclusion consisting of conditional statement P conditional Q, so we are assuming that P is the additional premise. So by introducing as additional premise in the derivation part, we call it as rule CP. In this class, we are discussing the consistency of premises. Right? In the previous class, we discussed the topics of rules of inference and we derived the problems by using rules of premise, rules of inference, and also by using indirect method of proof, we solve the problems. What is meant by indirect method of proof? In indirect method of proof, to get the conclusion C, we are assuming that conclusion C is false. And finally we get contradiction. So because we are getting contradiction, our assumption is wrong. What is our assumption? C is false. So C is false is wrong implies C is the correct statement or C is the correct conclusion for the given set of premises. So in the last class we discussed by using the rules of inference how to solve or how to get the conclusion from using the given set of premises, and also how to get the conclusion C from the given set of premises using the indirect method of proof. In this class, we discuss the consistency of premises. So, a set of premises H1, H2 and so on Hm is said to be consistent if H1 and H2 and so on and Hm has a truth value 2 for all possible truth values of combinations of H1, H2, so on Hm. See here, a set of formulas is said to be consistent if their conjunction means we use and symbol in between H1, H2, so on Hm, has a truth value T, then we say that set of premises is consistent. Suppose if the set of premises has a truth value false, otherwise we are saying that instead of false, contradiction, that is H1 and H2 and so on and Hm is contradiction. When do we say that which is contradiction? It has truth value false. Right? So conjunction of the given set of premises has a truth value false, then H1, H2 and so on Hm are inconsistent. So to say that consistent, if their conjunction has a truth value T, to say that the given set of premises is inconsistent, if their conjunction has a truth value false. Next, show that the given set of premises are inconsistent. Inconsistent means we need to prove finally their conjunction has a truth value false. What are the given set of premises? Now we start the solution. So A conditional, B conditional, C. Let us take it as it is the first premise. Next, second premise is take it as a D conditional, B conditional, negation CB 2 and A and BB third premise. Now we are giving the arbitrary order. Why we are giving the order means to derive that the given set of premises is inconsistent. So as per our convenience we are giving 1, 2, 3, right? Now going to the solution, we take it as step number. Next, premise number. Next, premise. By using which rule we are writing the premises? So rule. Right, step number 1. Here we are finally saying that the given set of premises is inconsistent. To use the first premise, the left side A is required because it is the conditional statement. To use the second premise, again the left side D is required because it is conditional statement. To say that P conditional Q, to use Q, P must be known or P is required. Without knowing or without taking P, we can't say that Q is true, right? Whenever to use the conditional statement, if left side is there, by using the modus ponens formula, P comma P conditional Q is Q. So that directly we can't use the first premise and second premise, so that we take it as a third premise. So using the third premise, given premise as it is, which is rule P. Next, because A and D conjunction is there, means that A and D is there, we can write A as well as D. So, which is a simplification formula. Because we are deriving from the step 1, it is rule T. Step 1 and simplification formula. Right. Next, the third step, from the step 1 only, again we write, because we are deriving this, which is called rule T, step 1. Again we use the formula of simplification. Next. Now, I introduce the first premise. What is the first premise? A conditional, B conditional, C. Right? So, because we are writing the given premise as it is, which is rule P. Next step. So, we have A in the second step. Here we have A conditional, B conditional, C. From this, we have B conditional C. We are deriving the premise, so which is rule T, using steps 2 and 4. What is the formula? Modus ponens. What is the modus ponens formula? P and P conditional Q is equivalent to Q, right? So, next step. Now, I have B conditional C, which is equivalent to negation B B conditional C is equivalent to negation B or C, right? So, which is equivalent formula of conditional statement. Next step. Now I am introducing second premise, which is D conditional B and negation C. It is rule P because we are taking or we are writing the given premise as it is. Now in the next step, we have D as well as D conditional B and negation C. From this I get B and negation C by using derivation, so rule T. Which steps we are using here? 3 and 7. Steps 3 and 7. And also using the formula of modus ponens. What is the formula of modus ponens? Already we discussed here. P comma P conditional Q is equivalent to Q. Here D and D conditional B and negation C, which is equivalent to a right side part. What is the right side part? B and negational C. Now we can write this as negation of negation B or C. Just check here. By using De Morgan law, take this negation inside of parenthesis. Negation of negation B is B. Negation of R is AND. We get negation C. So both are same. Now in step number 9, we have negation B RC and negation of negation B RC. Here we are using the derivation part, means previous derived premises. What are the premises? In step number 6, right? In step number 5, we get negation B RC. In step number 8, we get negation of negation B RC. So it is equivalent to false because it is of the form P and negation P. What is the formula of P and negation P? Which is equivalent to false. So by using the given set of premises 1, 2 and 3, finally we conclude that it is equivalent to false. Therefore, given set of premises conjunction is false. Therefore, given set of premises is inconsistent. Right? So like that we are proving the given set of premises is inconsistent. Suppose if we are getting T here true, then we say that the given set of premises is consistent. Next we see the next sum. Prove that the following premises are inconsistent. Again we need to conclude that finally false. If the contract is valid, so the contract is valid is represented because the given problem is using the English sentences. We have to convert the sentences first in terms of premises. After that we need to derive whether the given set of premises or whether the given set of sentences is consistent or inconsistent. So first we denote the given set as premises. So the contract is valid is represented by P. John is liable for penalty is represented by Q. Next, if John is liable for penalty, already I said clearly in the last class, whenever a sentence, same sentence is repeated or by including the negation, otherwise word not, we can't represent it twice. Only single time we need to represent. Already John is liable for penalty is represented by Q. He will go bankrupt. This is a different sentence. It is denoted by R. Next, if the bank will loan him money, again it is a different sentence. So which is denoted by S, up to money. He will not go bankrupt. Already he will go bankrupt is denoted by R. So only the excess word is not. Whenever not is there, we need to put negation symbol before this variable R. So as a matter of fact, the meaning of as a matter of fact means that this is the conclusion part. What is the conclusion? The contract is valid and the bank will loan him money. So this entire thing is conclusion part. Now I will write the given sentences in the form of set of premises. See here, given sentences can be written as, what is the first sentence? If then is there. If then means we need to use conditional. So P conditional Q, right? Next one is, if John is liable for penalty, it is denoted by Q. Then he will go bankrupt, it is denoted by R. If the bank will loan him money, is denoted by S. Then he will not go bankrupt. He will go bankrupt is denoted by R. He will not go bankrupt is denoted by negation R. Therefore, what is the conclusion? Conclusion is the contract is valid. The contract is valid is represented by P. And the bank will loan him money. So bank will loan him money is denoted by S. Right? So we are converting the given sentences into set of premises. We denote these set of premises by numbers. So I am giving to this number P conditional Q be 1, Q conditional R be 2, S conditional negation R be 3. Because the conclusion consisting of P conditional S, whenever the conditional conclusion consisting of conditional statement, so the left side part also we take it as additional premise. So let P be fourth premise. So by using these numbers and we derive the problem. Right, what is the first one? Step. Second one is premise number. Next one, premise. In the next step, which rule we are using here? Right. So in the first step, we introduce the additional premise. It is premise number 4. We introduce P. Because we are taking as additional premise, we call it as rule CP. Additional premise. Right? In the next step, because already we have P, among these premises, which premise start with P? First premise. Now, use the first premise, P conditional Q. It is rule P, because the given premise we write as it is. In the third step, P comma P conditional Q is there, we get Q. It is the derivation part, rule T. We use the steps 1 and 2. And we use the formula of modus ponens. Right? Next step. Now we get a Q, we have Q. Which premise start with the Q? Second premise. So, writing the given second premise as it is, which is Q conditional R. Writing the given premise as it is, we call it as rule P. Next one, Q comma Q conditional R, which is R. So we derive the part, that means premise. Derivation is nothing but rule T. By using which steps here we are using? Step number 3 and 4. And which formula here we are using? Modus ponens. What is the formula of modus ponens? P comma P conditional Q is equivalent to Q. Right? So in the next step, now we have R. So right, now we write this, introducing this third premise. What is the third premise? S conditional negation R. Writing the given premise as it is, that rule is called rule P. So in the next step, because previously we have R, but this S conditional negation R is in different way, so we write it as negation of negation R conditional negation S. This is a derivation part, rule T. Which step here we are using means step number 6. And which formula here we are using means contradiction. Because already we are saying that implication and its contradiction both are equivalent. What is this one? It is equivalent to R conditional negation S. Right, now I am taking 8th one. So we have R and R conditional negation S. We get negation S. Right? So what we are getting? Negation S. So which is the derivation? Rule T. Rule T. Using which step here? Using step number 7. And using which formula here? Modus ponens. Right? So what we are getting here? We are getting negation yes. Right? We are getting negation yes. But what is our conclusion? Yes is our conclusion. But what we are getting here? We are getting negation yes. Therefore, given set of sentences, otherwise given set of premises leads to inconsistent, otherwise which is contradiction. Right. Now we will see the next one. In this predicate calculus, this is the second topic of our first unit 1. What is the first topic? Which is propositional calculus. Now, which is second topic, predicate calculus. Here first we see what is meant by predicate. If we consider the statement Radha is a girl or Sita is a girl, here in each sentence you have two different subjects, Radha and Sita. Is a girl is the property of the subject Radha and Sita. Now, these two sentences which are denoted by using the predicates. How can we denote? Is a girl. What is this one? Is a girl. Is the property of the subject. It is denoted by capital letter Z. It is denoted by capital letter Z. We call it as predicate. Second part, is a girl, which refers to the property of the subject, which is called the predicate. We denote it by a capital letter. So, is a girl is denoted by a capital letter. In the first sentence, we have Radha, which is the subject name. It is denoted by a small letter or lowercase letter, small r. Similarly, in the second sentence, we have the subject name Sita, which is denoted by a lowercase letter, small s. So, the first sentence, using the predicate calculus, we represent it by G of R. In the second sentence, Sita is a girl is denoted by G of S. Because here we are using G for single variable R, in the second sentence we are using for single variable S. So we call it as one place predicate. Right? So G is a one place predicate. Coming to the next example, Radha is taller than Sita. In this sentence we are discussing the two different objects. One is Radha, second one is Sita. Is taller than is the property here we are using. So is taller than, this is denoted by uppercase letter T. Radha is denoted by lowercase letter R. Sita is denoted by lowercase letter S. Now this sentence 1, Radha is taller than Sita, which is denoted by capital T of R comma S. So the meaning of R is taller than S, that is Radha is taller than S, because here T is placed between two different objects. So T is called two place predicate. Next, Rita sits between Nita and Sita. Here we have three different names, three different objects. Sits between is the property of the subject. So which is a three place predicate. How can we write here? Sits between is represented by capital S. Rita, Nita and Sita are because we have to write the subject names by small letters R, N, S. So sits between, it is applicable to three different objects. It is a three place predicate. Right? Now coming to the next one, simple statement function. A simple statement of one variable is defined as an expression which consisting of predicate symbol and an individual variable. Already we discussed here. Radha is a girl. How can we write this one? G of R. So it is a simple statement. How can we say a simple statement? Simple statement consisting of one predicate symbol and an individual variable. Here predicate symbol is G, individual variable is R. Next definition, statement function. What is meant by statement function? It becomes a statement when the variable is replaced by the name of any object. Suppose if we consider this G of R. What is G of R? Simple statement. If I replace this Radha, G means is a girl. Then what we get? Radha is a girl. So we call it as statement function. See here, G of X comma Y. X is taller than Y. When we replace both X and Y by the names of objects, we get a statement. Compound statement. How can we get the compound statement? Compound statement functions are obtained by combining two or more simple statement functions using the different logical connectives. Suppose if we take in the previous example, G of R is a simple statement. Similarly, G of S. What is the meaning of this? Radha is a girl, Sita is a girl. Suppose if I join these two using the logical connectives and R, negation, conditional, biconditional, we will get a different statements. We call those are compound statements. See here, M of X, H of X are joined by AND symbol, conditional, negation, right, R symbol. So where M of x represents that x is a man, H of x represents x is mortal. So H stands for mortality, M stands for man. Right? Now we will see the problem. Let Q of xy denote the statement x is equal to y plus 3. What are the truth values of the two propositions? What are the propositions? Q of 1 comma 2. We will see here. What is Q of x comma y? Which is x is equal to y plus 3. Now what is the first one? Q of 1 comma 2. Put x is equal to 1, y is equal to 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. Is both are equal? No. So which leads to false? Means F. So the truth value of Q of 1 comma 2 is false. Now coming to the next one. Q of 3 comma 0. Put x is equal to 3. So 3 is equal to y value 0 plus 3. 3 is equal to 3, which leads to true. So the second one, Q of 3 comma 0, its truth value is 2. The first one truth value is false. Right? In this class, we will discuss the concepts of consistent, inconsistent, for a given set of premises, when do we say that which is consistent, when do we say that which is inconsistent? Consistent means if their conjunction has a truth value true, if their conjunction has a truth value false, we say that which is inconsistent. Right? And then we start the concept of predicate calculus. In predicate calculus, how can we denote the given sentence using the predicates? And then we discuss one place predicate, next two place predicate, similarly 3 place predicate, and then we discuss the simple statement function, then discuss the compound statement function. And then also we discussed a problem. What is the truth value of a given proposition Q of 2 comma 0 and Q of 3 comma 0. In the next class, we will see the problems on predicates. Right? Thank you.